Hey, I'm Dan Prochko with My Pocket Marketing. Thanks for joining in for another live conversation of Road to Open, where I'm talking with leaders and experts and just some cool people about what's going on in the world right now and how we can all be better leaders, better business owners, and just grow together. I'm really excited for my guest today. One, because I work with him professionally, and two, because I've taken some of his classes and have become a better person because of it. But my guest today is Dan Sytsma, who is the founder of Improv Effects and Crawlspace Comedy Theatre. He's been performing improv for, Dan, what were we saying? Close to just over 20 years, right?
Yeah, over 20 years. I started in 97.
Cool. For over 20 years and launched a comedy club 2 years ago, works with business teams with Improv Effects to take improv techniques, apply them to the workplace for better communication, creativity, culture. I'm probably really butchering that though, aren't I?
No, good. Write it down.
Write it down. We'll put it in the marketing. So, let's start there. Tell me a bit more about, why don't we start, with a bit deeper intro to Improv Effects or Crawlspace Comedy Theatre for that matter.
Sure. So I started Crawlspace Theater Productions. Well, the first thing that I did was start Crawlspace Eviction Improv Comedy Team in 2003. Shortly after moving to Kalamazoo, I started doing theater and connected with a lot of people. I had been doing a lot of improv in Grand Rapids when I was in college and shortly out of college as well. But moved to Kalamazoo, and that became my home very quickly. I started to identify much more with Kalamazoo than I did Grand Rapids for lots of different reasons. Kalamazoo has a really fun focus on arts and performing arts theater. And so a group of people that I was doing a show with said, why don't we start doing improv? And so Crawlspace Eviction started that way. And then we produced some different teams along the way. And then the opportunity came to work with a company, Biggs Gilmore, was their name at the time. It's now BML. And they wanted to have some team development with their writing staff. And so they asked Brian Lamb, who was on Crawlspace Eviction at that time, if, that's something that Crawlspace could do or that he and I could do. And so we put together a program and it went really well. Their writing staff really enjoyed it. And we started talking about, okay, could this be a thing? Could this be something that we just do for other clients? And we started asking around. We did kind of a focus group with some local professionals, and they all said, this is something that people are looking for. This is that's a different spin on team development, and anybody can do it, which is a real great advantage of it. It's not like a ropes course where, if you have anybody with any sort of different ability, they might not be able to do it. And all of a sudden your team development has led to team segmentation and alienation, which is not good.
And it doesn't really conform to really the tenets of improv either, for that matter. So
it really doesn't. And in other, competitive team building, some people really, really don't like that. They see it being destructive, and some of it really is. Some of it, I would say, there's a lot of value in constructing a team or a company softball team or something like that. Can be really great.
So I'm going to interject here real quick. Why improv? We've known each other for years now, and I don't think I've actually ever asked you that question yet. Like, what was it about improv? Because this isn't really what you studied whatsoever. I mean, you were a chemist in a whole other life.
Yeah. So oddly, there is a connection. It's a loose connection. But the thing that I love about improvisers and a community like Chicago, which is sort of the mecca of improvisational theater, is there's all these little groups scattered throughout the city that are working together and rehearsing together. And that's a big misnomer with improv. People say, oh, you went to improv rehearsal? What do you rehearse? You make it up. Yeah. It's one of the more annoying things
Right.
that improvisers have to deal with. Because we do rehearse. We rehearse sometimes a lot. And early on, Crawlspace Eviction was rehearsing a lot. And that's when you figure out what different things work, whether it's figuring out how a game works or a long form format works. You're researching it, you're trying things and adapting things and making the needed adjustments and seeing what effect it has. And that's research. That's what I was doing in a chemistry lab. I used to develop methods to test pharmaceutical drugs, and it was, I mean, the level of creativity was similar at times when I was really given the liberty, hey, optimize how we test this drug. Really? You want me to make it as good as I can? Okay, well, I'm going to try a bunch of different things. And there was an element that was really fun about that. And it's similar to the fun that I have when we make a breakthrough in an improv scene, or we're trying to figure out how a certain game should be played, and somebody hits on it, and you're like, that's how you do it. And that same kind of creativity and sort of discovery is something that workplaces are craving. They want to have people who think creatively, and thinking outside the box has become cliche, but they want people who have that divergent thinking so that they can have divergent breakthroughs to innovate and to come up with creative solutions to problems.
Yeah, that's like the whole reason, open offices started, and why they say conversations around the water cooler are good. And, you can't just constantly be in it, because spurs that creativity. And so partially what I'm hearing, though, which, literally this is the first time I've heard some of this from you, is that rehearsal that you were doing with Crawlspace Eviction, more so at first, but in testing all this out, sure, yeah, relates to chemistry research and we'll talk about that. But what's interesting is it's not about being funny. What I'm hearing is like you're exploring how we communicate on stage and how we interact. Like, how does this game work? And if you think, I'm just thinking about the workplace, it's almost a game in of itself. Some people say maybe the real Game of Thrones, but but it's like how, social structures and team engagement, et cetera. I mean, those are all, quote unquote, potentially games on some level even. And so I don't know, am I drawing a parallel here? Is that, maybe I'm just trying to fill time, but
do we have to?
Do we have to? No. But I mean, I'm seeing a parallel there, and that's something that I experienced, when I was taking, when I took 2 levels of the improv course so far. Was a lot of that parallel.
Yeah, and there's an element of calling them games, improv games, that has always bothered me, because it implies that there's a winner.
Interesting, yeah.
There's really not. I mean, you want everybody to win. You really want the audience to win. That's
right. At a performance, yeah.
Yeah, they're games in that there are parameters that you're working within to accomplish, something, and to create scene work. I am very, I don't like competitive improv games, and I don't really like competitive improv, because I feel like if people are not on the same page with the fact that the real goal is to entertain an audience, it can get really weird. It can take away from the real nature of
ego takes over. Yeah.
Ego can take over. I used to see it happening with some of the teams that I've been on. I won't mention names. But yeah, it was, people would try to win at a game, and I'm like, come on, why are you doing that? And I think some of it is because I can be competitive at times, but in a very different place when it's time to be competitive.
So that's interesting. You touched on a piece in there about the limits or the parameters within. And one of the things that I've always said is like, I'm most creative, and I've seen teams be most creative when they're limited to a certain area. I mean, if the sky's the limit, I don't think there's any creativity in that, because everything goes. That's not creative. You know, it's when you do have to, I don't have a better phrase, think outside the box. Those parameters when new ideas come out. And so a lot of what you do with Improv Effects and teams is to show them how they can work together in that way. So how do you do that? Like, what is some of that? I mean, I highly recommend everybody reach out to at least have you in for a single session, but you know, over time, I mean, I've been on teams that you've come in and worked with, and we've had much better communication, you know, over time. So what are the ways that you go about that?
Yeah, I love that. It's so much about creating safety and creating an environment where people feel very safe to share, and they feel safe to bring their best self and their best mind to the table. And a lot of it's about purging negative emotions. So much of it is about purging negative emotions, fear, self-doubt, those jealousy. I see a lot of that going on right now, or self-doubt coupled with jealousy happens all the time. And I think it's happening professionally a lot right now, because people are seeing people on social media who just seem to be thriving, and like they figured out how to do the pandemic, when those people are doing their best at what they can do.
And only showing you the curated pieces that look great.
Yeah. And also maybe this time in this situation is more suited for certain people. That's just a fact. That's just a reality that exists. Maybe
sorry, say that again.
So, but other people feel like, I got into live performance because I love live in-person performance, and also working in person with teams. Yeah, that's what I love. And I can't do that right now.
Yeah.
And so when I see some people pivot and they're like, oh, I'm going to thrive because I'm going to adapt everything to virtual, and they deliver it really well and everything goes really well. I mean, that's fantastic. That's really great. But for somebody to see that and say, I have a hard time with that, that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're not professional. That doesn't mean that you're less of a entrepreneur or less of a creative mind or anything like that. That just means maybe this time is more difficult for certain people than others. And some are going to thrive more, and some are just going to survive and then look at the end and say, you know, what can I still do that's valuable for me, for everybody around me, for my family, whoever? What can I do that's positive and is going to get me through this in a way that is going to be healthy? And what somebody else is doing might not be that. That probably works for them.
Just talking about this actually the other day, where we were looking in the comedy space, you know, across the country, of who's doing what, and noticing that there were a lot of bigger names that had huge rosters of virtual classes. They came out of nowhere and all over the place, and on topics that aren't necessarily in their wheelhouse entirely. Let's just say, I'm sure they have somebody that it's in their wheelhouse. So I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here, but it's just a really rapid shift. And, you know, we were talking about that and how it was like, you know, I wonder, are they hitting it out of the park? because there is a reputation to uphold for many of these brands, and can they keep that going? So that's interesting. You were talking about some people thrive, some people don't. So of those who aren't thriving, and we're not talking about employed or unemployed, it's like personality, how do we approach this? Like for those who aren't thriving, any words of wisdom, advice on some things to think about or do? Maybe you're doing something that might align with something they could look into.
Yeah. I think there's some improv things that are really helpful, and one of them is forgive yourself immediately. You know, for those moments when things are not, when you have those thoughts of I'm scared, or I'm concerned about the future. I'm anxious because I don't know what's going to happen. And be sure that you're forgiving yourself for those moments, because that's in improv. I mean, I've talked about this in coaching, you know, coaching Little League, or coaching improv, or coaching public speaking, that you just have to forgive yourself. And if you don't do that, you're not going to be as effective as you could. And that happens in improv scenes constantly. Like somebody will make a move and feel like, oh no, that was not good. Yeah. If you stay in that moment, if you stay in that mindset, what are you going to do? What's your next move going to be? You're going to let your teammates down again. And then what's going to happen, it's just going to spiral into you're not there for your team. Yeah. Whereas if you forgive yourself immediately and just say, I'm going to deal with what happened just then later. I'm totally reinvested in what's going on right now. And yeah, maybe you have a conversation later with your team and say, I'm not sure what happened then was great. Can we talk about it? And then you have that conversation, and somebody might say, yeah, that was terrible. That really felt with love. I mean, with love. With love. But if you open the door, it makes a big difference. If you say, I don't know if I felt good about that. What did you feel? If somebody says felt terrible, you're like, that's what I thought. Okay. I thought it probably did. Let's and this goes back to the limits, the game, the research, the knowing that we're always growing. Like we got to try new things. One thing that it reminded, this sparked in my head that relates to marketing, you know, which is where we shine, but is that there are so many clients or leaders that I talk to where they're like, man, we need to be blogging. We need to have content out there, you know, and it's in that content space of, well, I'd love if we had this video thing going on, but man, like, I don't know if people will listen, or are we the right people to be telling that story, or man, we just don't have the equipment. It's just too hard and all this stuff. And honestly, all that stuff is surmountable. You know, I mean, okay, buy some equipment. I mean, we all have these. I mean, are you kidding me? This thing records in 4K. Like what? A 4K camera, if I was going to buy a huge one, I mean, thousands of dollars. And we have videographers here in Kalamazoo that have all of that. But to say the least, it's all fear-based. And one of the things that I say is, you know, your early stuff is going to suck. Like, I'm just going to be honest, like, it's going to suck. You know, I mean, this is only, we're here. This is my fourth. So I'm sorry, guys, if it sucks. I'm really sorry. But I mean, I hope it doesn't. But the point is like, we get better as we go. You know, Stephen King talks about this. I think Grisham and Clancy had talked about that in interviews as well. And, you know, they have tomes of books out there now. You know, it's you do it over and over and over again, and over time you find your voice. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, you know, and that's the piece that I resonate with in what you said, is like forgiving yourself that right now you suck, but you know what, in a year, 2, 3, you're going to be much more polished, and it just gets better over time. Same thing with improv, like you were talking about with practicing. So that's my little marketing comparison note there. Yeah, that's great. I love the Picasso quote of inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. I think it's very true. If you wait for inspiration to just come along, It's not going to. Opportunity looks a lot like hard work, and it's true. And something that I think is really valuable is your network. You know, just keeping a healthy, solid network, whatever that looks like. And I think if there's one thing that I probably am going to start engaging a little bit more is my network of people, and just making sure that I'm connected to them. So I think that's of vital importance. And, you know, another thing is, it's cliche, but, you know, trying to stay active, you know, trying to do something that is going to be good for your body and your person, because it's very, very easy when things are, when you're not walking around, or just not, even when you drive somewhere, you're going to be walking to whatever the place is. And that's not happening.
Thank you for setting the bar low for me. Thank you. Thank you. I do drive places, and I walk to the door and back. Thank you. I feel good about that now. Thank you.
Good.
Yes.
We did not put gas in our van the entire month of May.
Seriously.
I'm not kidding.
Wow. Yeah. I'm trying to think when we went out last. We're probably pretty close, maybe 3 weeks so far, and we're still more than 3/4 tank. Yeah. That was a rabbit hole.
Yeah. But I mean, that's another part of it is, you know, we don't have revenue, or we have some revenue, but
well, no, you do, you know, and actually, great segue. Here we go. Great segue. Lockdown happens. Crawlspace Comedy Theatre is almost 2 years old, maybe exactly 2 right now, something like that. But come March, you know, year and a half in, we're in the middle of season, the second season basically of shows, and at the theater, right? Maybe it's the third. Holy cow, maybe time flies. But it all gets shut down. You can't have shows, you know. What went through your mind?
In some ways, there's an opportunity that we're somewhat taking advantage of. We weren't doing shows in our performance space because we don't have our liquor license. We don't have our liquor license because of a number of different factors, and you know, I could bore everyone with the details.
Needless to say, when it happens, there'll be a huge announcement. Huge,
enormous. There's a lot of factors, and most of them are out of our control. Some of them are based on sort of decisions that we made to stay in that particular location because we think it's special. We think it's a unique location in Kalamazoo. It's historic. It is becoming and will become a very strong cultural hub in Kalamazoo. We want to be there. We want to be there for that. We want to help create it. We want to be a driving force for it. So much that I became president of the board of the KNAC, which is the organization that runs that building, because I really feel strongly that place is going to be a real jewel in the Kalamazoo crown that continues a legacy of capitalizing on change and certain things becoming obsolete in Kalamazoo, and us doubling down on the fact that we are a creative town. We are a arts community with a strong focus on performing arts. So when paper companies went down, they took a giant paper factory, it was a binding factory, and made the Park Trade Center into an more of a visual arts hub. Great. When downtown department stores became obsolete, they made Jacobson's into an arts hub, into the Epic Center. And so now, when having so many downtown churches has become obsolete, Some of them got torn down. Some of them will get torn down. But let's follow the legacy of this town in that, why don't we double down on the performing arts and make this historic space into a performing arts hub, which will also have other nonprofits and other artists and possibly entrepreneurs. We're working on it being potentially a co-working space. There's so much potential in it. And Crawlspace having their home there, I want Crawlspace to be connected to that kind of an effort, to be connected to that kind of a community venture that is risky but could be really, really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about the First Baptist Church downtown, and innovating on it in the sense of, taking more ownership, custodianship of the community and the space. And that's what KNAC was founded for. Like you said, you're the president. How is it different being part of KNAC and that team versus say Crawlspace or Improv Effects or working with other businesses, or how do you view it? Because it's very different than what you've done in the past and everything.
What I'm finding is the more that I incorporate improv philosophies and tenets into other work that I do, the better it is, it's astonishing that I forget that, because improv is my life. But as the president of the board, in the last board meeting that we had, we did a session that I don't have a great name for it. I just call it Put It on the Board, because that's what we do. We had to figure out some really key issues. We had to figure out some answers to some key issues. And I also kind of stole this from corporate world, where we expanded on what are the issues and what are the possible solutions. And we put everything on the board. Nothing was shot down. And this isn't atypical in a setting, but you have to have somebody facilitating and ensuring and insisting nothing gets shot down. It does not matter what is said. It goes on the board. At the same time, nobody can monopolize it, because everybody shares their opinions and shares their ideas, and we put it all down. And so maybe somebody who likes to monopolize conversation, they share their idea. Cool, it's up there. Let's move to the next one. Who else has something that hasn't been added? And all of a sudden, the quieter people recognize this is much more of a comfortable time to share, because the idea of the outspoken is not overly focused on. And it can always come back, because that's usually what we do, is we say, here's the list, here's everything that we got. What are people excited about? And people start to say, I like that thing. That element really makes sense. I like it. And somebody mentioned something at a meeting, or at this last meeting, who hasn't shared a lot. And when they did share, somebody tried to jump on them and shut it down a little bit. And luckily, somebody else, even before I jumped in to say, no, let's talk about it.
Oh, okay, nice.
Came in and said, I think that has a lot of merit. Let's talk about it for a second. And we did. And all of a sudden, we got this great dialogue about it. Now, I think it's important at the end of all that, and only at the end, to narrow it down. You can't use all of those ideas. You have to start whittling it down. And so this nonprofit's given me an opportunity to test some different ways of doing this, of coming to decisions, getting buy-in from everybody. Some of it's technical. Some of it's using technology to achieve that. Some of it is, it's all using technology, because we can't wait. but different types. Like sometimes it's sending out a survey to everybody and seeing what they say, because some people are comfortable with that and they might have a little bit more time to digest it. And so they'll take their time and, oh, yeah, maybe this. Whereas in conversation in a meeting, especially in Zoom meetings, they might not feel comfortable sharing.
Right.
So it's really giving me a lot of opportunity to test some of these things. The thing that's different is improv is something that I'm familiar with, and I've been doing it a lot. And working with companies to deliver applied improvisation, been doing it for a while. I know what we do is good. I'm very confident in it. We're trying to preserve an old church building. I've never done that before. I've never done it.
Right. But it's packaged in a great story, though, which you told earlier. I mean, you told it earlier. I mean, it's packaged in a great story. We're creating a new hub of innovation and creativity, but I hear that story and it makes me think of one thing for sure. One, we've gone for full circle. The first thing is we started our whole conversation about safety and what improv needs is acceptance, and the leaders that you work with and the teams that you work with, it's about fostering that kind of environment. And so that's what you're applying here. Great that you have a set of guinea pigs you can test a ton of stuff out on. That's awesome. So that's one, like full circle. Here we are all the way like near the end, and we're talking about that safety piece at the beginning, which kind of leads to the second piece, is that different people have different communication styles and thinking. Like you even said about your experience in this lockdown and pandemic is that certain people are thriving more than others, and then you're seeing that as you work with teams or within Crawlspace and your team itself and family, etc. And being able, I'm going to use the word blessed in having all of this free technology or great useful tools that allow us to experiment with different communication methodologies to make things happen. I think that's really cool. Yeah, there are definitely some individuals that love that time to think. They want to have a day or two, write it all out, get the details down. And then there are those like me, impulsive. Oh yeah, dude, I got it all right here. Here you go. Gonna throw it out there. And then there's everybody in between. So I tip my hat, sir. Way to keep that improv top of mind and put it into action. So so going full circle, hitting the end here, like I know right now I want to talk just for a quick couple minutes both about Crawlspace Comedy Theatre and what's going on, and Improv Effects, starting with Crawlspace. I know right now there are weekly game shows going on. Just share a little bit about that, where people can learn more, join in. I know there's some classes too happening. So this is sell it, dude.
Yeah, it's we're having a blast with the game show. It's called Yes, There Really Is an Answer, and we developed it it was mainly Bannon Backus and I and yourself threw in on developing a game show that was because right now the online platform is actually pretty good for doing a game show because generally it's a single person talking at a time. That works. So doing the game show, you can add visuals to it. You can add some really cool elements. Bannon Backus is such a great host of it. He plays a wonderful straight man to all these wacky characters that we come up with that answer questions. And lots of people keep saying, oh, I love that it's Kalamazoo-based trivia because there's a learning element as well. There's, people learn a little bit about the town and, some fun.
Education is entertaining. Education is entertaining.
Yeah. And so that really grounds it in the local setting. And people are still playing characters. They get to improvise. They still get to do that performance. And then the classes that we're doing are really, we tweaked everything for the virtual. We didn't do an online virtual version of in-person classes because we didn't feel like that would be a quality product. So we developed specific workshops or classes that are for virtual. They work well in a virtual setting. So right now, Tara Sytsma, my wife, and I, we're doing two-person improv scenes, like just building that muscle of two-person improv scenes, because that is such a foundational strength of improv. That's got to be good. And then Bannon is doing sketch writing. And they just got done with it. They did a great live stream of reading the sketches.
Yeah,
it was a
lot of fun.
Really good stuff. So I was very proud of Bannon and proud of the students for the work that they produced there. And then Tara and I are working on a character development class as well. Oh,
nice.
So Tara's probably going to be doing that one.
Okay.
But yeah, we're figuring some different things out, and we're even talking about different ways that we might be able to do performance in a way that is socially distanced, follows all the guidelines, is safe.
We're going to put everybody in their own clear shower curtain stall. Like, we're just going to hang those from the ceiling in the theater, and then you just enter and like you're there for the whole performance.
It's not that far off. It's, yeah, we're figuring it out. So nothing's really ready to share quite
sure.
Yeah. But I'm having some great conversations with folks about what they're doing. There's a dance studio in the KNAC space, and they're also trying to figure out how they're going to do performance. So yeah, everybody's trying to figure it out, and we're looking around the nation and seeing what other people are doing, and some of it does come back to it's got to be a fit. It's got to be something that is within the parameters of what I'm capable of doing, or of what we're capable of doing, what we're excited about, how we're going to produce a good product. Because if it's not going to produce a good product, I don't want to do it. It's doing it just for the sake of doing it. I don't think is reason enough. So we're trying to ensure that it's going to be a good product. Improv Effects. Still doing some virtual classes, doing some work with a company called ASC over in Detroit, who I've worked with for a long time, many years, and they're converting things to virtual trainings. And so I do a communication class and a team building class, and then also we're offering to jump in with different teams, whether they're past clients or somebody new. If you have a weekly Zoom meeting with your team, we'd love to jump on for the first 20 minutes, do an exercise, and then let the team have their meeting. So nice. There's different ways that we can still work with teams, because it's really hard to have any sort of, I think the thing that is missing right now more than anything is just that sense of culture within a workplace. Workplace culture is, I think it is so important, and it's something that I've decided to dedicate my career to, because you spend so much time doing your work in your workplace. Let's make it as good as it can be. And if it's something that people leave feeling good about, they're going to do better work. And they're going to go home to their families, and they're going to be better fathers. They're going to be better husbands. They're going to be better wives and mothers. And they're just going to be better people if that workplace culture is something that makes them feel good, makes them feel like they have purpose, they have value. That's what I want to help with. And work culture right now is harder to nurture. It's harder to maintain because it's all virtual. It's harder but it's still worth investing in. I truly believe that. And so trying to find ways to invest in your team and in your team's culture and your company culture right now, it's hard, but there are ways that you can do it. And we've got some ways that we can add that value.
So that's really generous. So how would somebody contact you right now for that?
So improveffects.com is our website. There's different ways that you can connect with me through that. Email's easy. That's probably the best way. So yeah, shoot me an email. Let me know what your team does and what your team is doing as far as meetings go, and yeah, how we might be able to jump on there, do some different development, and help make sure that your team is staying connected to each other.
So improveffects.com, and then for your Crawlspace shows and classes, that's going to be where?
That's at crawlspacetheatre.com. And yeah, it'll have all the information about the game show and the different classes that are going on. And yeah, there's some exciting stuff. It's it's a tough time for performing artists. We want to perform. We want to be in front of people. And also instructors. You know, I want to be in front of people. Yeah. And we can't do that right now. So yeah, staying as mentally healthy as you can during a time when you can't do that thing that really fills your bucket. You know, find a way to nurture yourself, to invest in yourself, but also find different things in your community that you can invest in. That's part of why I'm pouring so much time into the work with the KNAC and restoring and preserving the historic First Baptist Church building, because I know that it's going to be a wonderful gift to the community, and that helps with my leadership skills, and also it's helping get us our home back. So yeah, try to take some time, and as my wife likes to say, however you're feeling, it's okay. And I remember that throughout every day. You know, however you're feeling about something, it's okay. All right.
That is a great place to wrap up for today. However you're feeling, that's okay. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Dan, thank you for the conversation.
You Appreciate it. Thanks, Dano.
For more on Improv Effects, please visit improveffects.com. Check out live game show tomorrow 7:30. Yep. It's live. Crawlspacetheatre.com. I know you have it live on the website because I put it there. And
I'm going to be in the game show.
You're going to be playing. Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
I hope I don't mess up the board controlling. We'll figure that one out.
If you do, you're going to hear about it.
I'm going to hear about it. I mean, not just from you. I'm going to hear about it from so many people.
Yeah, they don't hold back, do they?
Oh, your following is super strong. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining. For more Road to Open, please join the newsletter where we announce all of our upcoming conversations and guests like Dan. We do have 3 past episodes already, you know, focusing from PPP to cleaning industry. And oh my God, I'm missing one. I feel really bad about that. They're all online.
Lender? Some sort of lender?
Well, that was Lendio. We talked about PPP. Then I talked with Jeannie Henderson, Jeannie Cleaning, talking with you. And there was one other, and now I'm drawing a blank. Oh, Josh Cook, Green Door Distilling Company.
Oh, yeah.
The first distillery in Kalamazoo since 1858. I still remember that. Anyway, jump in because we have plenty more of these conversations coming up with other leaders, both from Kalamazoo and outside. I do have some others from across the nation that are going to join in. So would love to have you join us, and we will see you on the next one. Thank you very much.